as we get into the Texans, we do start with the keys to what's coming up this week. And yes, key matchups. What worries you? Breakout players. We got 3 categories to start here. So, Gregory, let's go with the key matchups. When you look at the Texans, I know you've dove super deep into this 1-0 Texans team. What do you see as the Braggs, P. Allen key matchup Sunday night?
Well, it's certainly interesting. I know a lot of people aren't going to give the Bears much of a shot to win this game, but I think the Bears can keep it close because, like, what goes up must come down, right? Never too high, never too low. So right now, everybody's kind of down on what the Bears did offensively, and so that's leading people to think that they have no shot in this game. But they have to be better than they were last week, and I think they watched enough film and this week to probably get off the mat and get into the end zone offensively a few times and not rely so much on their special teams and defense. That being said, I mean, if you watched last week, the Tennessee Titans interior defensive line absolutely destroyed that game. They wrecked any opportunity the Bears wanted to have to run the football, and they made Caleb Williams uncomfortable all day long. At no point did Caleb Williams ever get comfortable, and he spoke on that. So this week's a little different matchup, right? Brian Baldinger talked about it. The edge with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. We're familiar with Danielle Hunter here in Chicago, and, last year he wreaked havoc on us, per Brendan Shagrew. Last year in 2 games, Danielle Hunter against the Bears, 3.5 sacks, 12 solo tackles, 4 tackles for losses, 5 QB hits, 1 forced fumble, 1 pass deflection. So, that's a familiarity that we know with this guy. But now you have Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright, who had a good performance here in week 1. That's my key matchup, the tackles versus the edge. And you've got Will Anderson, who was the number 1, a top pick in the draft, for the Houston Texans last year. And to me, if you go back and look, the reason that Corey Wooten was so high on Darnell Wright, the reason that Adam Hoge was so high on Darnell Wright, and so many others, and the reason the Bears ultimately drafted Darnell Wright in the top 10, part of the reason was that he did a hell of a job against Will Anderson in college. And there's tape you can pull to watch that matchup. So there's some familiarity there as well. And so they had a good week 1. And so it'll be interesting to see how this goes. But I think as long as the tackles play the way they did last week, albeit this is a much tougher matchup this week, then I think the Bears do have a puncher's chance to make some noise and start getting some momentum on offense.
I like the way you're saying it. Puncher's chance feels right for me. And, we'll do our predictions fully on Sunday. But, I'm going to be picking Houston to win this game. For myself, though, if the Bears are going to win the football game, his name is Joe Mixon, and he carried it 30 times. 30 for one
for a passing team, right?
Right. And so I've got some interesting stats on that I'd like to bring to the forefront here. And I really think it applies deeply to the Bears and how they can get Caleb off the ground here and how to have some success. The way to do it in today's NFL is to run the ball to set up the pass. We are seeing that all across the league, and we're seeing a bunch of, everyone loves to be in the shotgun, whereas the Texans are more committed, along with some other teams, are more committed to keeping the ball on the ground to set it up. And so for me, the Bears front 7 is going to have to contain Joe Mixon to make the Texans a passing team so they can load up and put some pressure on CJ Stroud. Because if he is sitting back there all comfortable, even with the Bears' great secondary, that is going to be a huge problem. So listen, Gervon Dexter, DeMarcus Walker, all these guys, you're dealing with a real running back, and a running back who's going to have the ball in his hands. So if he has a big day, the Bears have no chance. If they can limit him, then not control the clock, get the ball in Caleb's hands, all these things. But to me, the whole key is can you not allow Mixon to have another huge day? Who's looking, he's come over there. He left Burrow. Now he's with CJ. He's getting a ton of love in that locker room. Huge love from his performance. To me, that is sort of the Texans, the head of the snake here that you got to cut off to control them offensively before you even get to CJ.
Yeah, no, I understand. And people, Gritty saying in chat, Billings will plug up that middle. Yeah, that's his job, no question about it. But the reason Joe Mixon can be so effective in this offense is because of the threat of CJ Stroud and those dynamic wide receivers, Nico Collins, Steph Diggs, Tank Dell. There's a lot of things you got to worry about. I mean, then they're running end arounds to Tank Dell, and he's got like 30 yards before he's even touched because there's just so much stuff that the defense has to pay attention to. So it's going to be a lofty, task for this defense and a good test, a primetime test. And this defense couldn't have played any better last week in the second half. Let's hope that carries over. It'll be a lot of fun to watch if they do.
So, and just to give you some stats on this, by the way, as far as running the ball, Cleveland Browns last week, QBR rating 9.3. All right. Rough week for Deshaun Watson. How many rushing yards do they have? 54. Carolina Panthers, QBR 10.5. Bryce Young, another rough week. How many rushing yards? 58. Bears, QBR 23.5. 84 rushing yards. You get the point here. I really think the Bears need to run football, run. All right. Along those lines, what worries you there, Gregory?
Well, I think it's obvious this week, so I'm taking the chalk on this. Rome Odunze seems like he won't play on Sunday. I'm still holding out. I don't know if the word is hope, but I think there still is an opportunity that he's a game time decision on Sunday. We don't know the severity of that, but then also Keenan Allen hasn't practiced all week, and everybody's just kind of assuming that Rome's the only thing we have to worry about. If both players are out, that's my biggest worry at this point. They can handle one wide receiver being out, but then both are out. You only have 5 active wide receivers on your 53-man roster, and one of them is Velus Jones. So you saw last week DJ Moore get banged up, Keenan Allen get banged up, Rome Odunze get banged up, and Tyler Scott's on the practice squad, and Velus Jones is a running back. So this is starting to concern me. I really, I guess I took for granted the fact that they were only keeping 5 wide receivers, and it's already starting to become somewhat of a problem. So I'm hoping that Keenan Allen, at the very least, can play on Sunday night.
Fair enough. And look, along those lines, let's just say, for argument's sake, that both of them are out. And I don't even actually care if they're healthy. The Bears need to alter the personnel groupings that they did in week 1. We need more 12, more 13. Give me 21, give me 22. I like 2 tight end sets. Which, as I get in what worries me, his name is Shane Waldron. He's got a long way to go to get this thing moving in the right direction. As far as, there's got to be a change in philosophy. I get it. Like, you want to show this sexy offense to the rest of the NFL world that at some point, you're going to be considered to be a head coach. I'm this guy with this cool system, versus when you run the ball, people aren't going to be like, oh, wow, that guy's awesome. But the Bears right now, you've got 2 good tight ends. You have a good running group. Let's use it, especially if you're losing, your 2 top wide receivers, or your number 2 and your number 3 wide receiver. So my concern is Shane, and it will be for a couple more minutes here before he, shows that he has a good understanding of what it's going to take for the Bears to be successful. Give me your breakout player, Gregory.
Yeah, my breakout player last week was, of course, Tyrique Stevenson, who ended up being the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. So mark one down for old Gregory P. Allen Braggs. Now, this week, I'm running it back. If Jaylon Johnson and Tyrique Stevenson had an interception last week, that means now they're going to try to pick on Kyler Gordon. You got to pick one. It's not an easy secondary to attack. And so, to me, I think Kyler Gordon is going to be the beneficiary of being the breakout player candidate here on the primetime stage, and maybe making a name for himself. We all know the sack celebrations and the interception celebrations that he likes to do with his Spider-Man routine. And I think on the primetime stage, he has an opportunity to break out and get people to really understand who he is from a household name perspective.
I like it. And I'm going to be slightly hypocritical here, although it's more optimistic positive for you, Gregory, because you're the
Okay.
most optimistic, positive guy.
Okay.
My breakout guy that I'm going with, his name is DeAndre Swift. All right. I think the Bears are going to hopefully figure out that, yes, ball on ground, good for Bear, good for Caleb, good for offense, good for gambling on the Bears. Let's do this. And DeAndre Swift was signed for a reason, has that shake. He can carry it more than 10 times. He could carry it 15 times. He doesn't have to carry it 30 times. How about we put the ball in the belly of the best back on the team and let him cook a little bit here on Sunday night, take some pressure off of the quarterback. So I'm looking at all the gambling odds on this thing, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, you could get plus 1,100 on 90 yards for DeAndre Swift. I don't know, 11-1 for on a 100-yard game here. You can get 7-1 on 70. That I'm going to make some play on DeAndre Swift here. It's the easiest way forward for the Bears right now. They have to know that Caleb's not ready to be quote unquote Caleb yet. What are you going to do? And I don't think they're ready to give Bayless it a ton. And you're not going to be crushing it with Travis Homer. So, and they, for whatever reason, they haven't figured out that Khalil Herbert is very effective. So I'm betting on DeAndre Swift to have a breakout week this week.
What is your key matchup that you're looking at here? Houston Texans versus Chicago Bears.
Yeah, well, I mean, good segue off the weapons I just mentioned, because I think this is one of the better matchups that you're going to find in the NFL all weekend, which is the Bears secondary versus the Texans wide receivers. Now, Nico Collins was dealing with an injury, an illness, but I don't think that's really going to hold him back. When you just look at Collins, Diggs, and Tank Dell against Jaylon Johnson and Tyrique Stevenson and Kyler Gordon, and then you throw in, obviously, the quarterback who's going to be throwing the ball to them, and CJ Stroud, and the safeties who will be on the back end trying to disguise coverages and mix things up, maybe blitzing Stroud a little bit too, with Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker. This is an awesome matchup. It's the key matchup for me, and I really just feel like this is a game where you're the Bears. If you want to win, you got to find a way to take the ball away from the Texans, and that's not easy because Stroud does not throw interceptions. However, the Colts got a lot of pressure on Stroud last week. They hit him, they sacked him, and eventually, if you can keep that relentless pressure on, even if it's over the course of a couple games, that ball is going to get turned over eventually. I don't care who you are. And so that to me is the key. How well can the secondary play, and can they turn over CJ Stroud? Because if they can, I think the Bears will have a great chance to win this game.
One of the Texans' offensive linemen, their left guard, Kenyon Green, people were singing his praises last week. So just if we're looking at one matchup, big Dex, Kenyon Green, that'll be something to keep an eye on as far as the Bears getting pressure. All right, so moving along from there, Hoge, what worries you most about the way the Bears are coming in this week after off a win, but obviously we're going up in class here?
Yeah, I mean, well, just more so in this game, what worries me the most, and not to be redundant, is just the wide receiver injuries. I mean, I don't. Second time I've referenced this tweet this morning, and I feel bad because I forget who tweeted it and I couldn't find it. But someone tweeted this morning that Caleb Williams suddenly went from best position a number one pick has ever been in to virtually the same wide receivers that Justin Fields had last year. So it's suddenly, I mean, and that's how it looks right now when you got Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze not practicing. We'll see, obviously that changes if Keenan Allen's ready to go Sunday. But it's just a sobering reminder of how quickly this thing can change in the NFL with injuries. Obviously the Dolphins and the Packers are dealing with that right now at the quarterback position. And I just don't like that. Especially it's funny. I kind of feel more confident right now as we talk that Keenan will play over Rome. But in terms of which injury I'm actually worried about more for the season, it's the Keenan injury. It's him already dealing with a heel this early on in the season. So that's what's kind of keeping me awake at night. What's concerning me the most right now with this team, I just don't like that it's only week 2. And even DJ Moore, even though he's not showing up on the injury report,
right,
he seems to be grinding through something. That goes back to the preseason, not just when he left briefly last week.
Yeah.
Run football, run.
Well, and that's the thing I was mentioning to Mark. I kind of think I definitely took for granted. I think a lot of us took for granted the fact that they were only carrying 5 wide receivers on the 53-man depth chart because they were so top end heavy with talent. But like you said, things changed so quickly. And now you're looking at it, you're like, what wide receivers do they have? So I think we all kind of severely underestimated that. And they're already up against it here 1 week into the season. All right, Hoge, last one, your breakout player of the game against the Texans. Last week, I picked Tyrique Stevenson, not to continue to pat myself on the back, but I will continue to pat myself on the back. I took Kyler Gordon this week. Mark's got DeAndre Swift. Who you got for breakout player here coming in for week 2 against the Texans?
Well, I have 2 chalk picks. I mean, one seems more obvious than the other. One is more fun than the other. Which one? Do you want me to go fun or obvious? Let's you guys choose.
Let's start with the obvious, finish with the fun.
Okay, so the obvious one is Cole Kmet's going to play more this week. And if they don't get him the ball a little bit, and I don't even know if he counts as a breakout player, right? Because he's established in this league. But I just mean, for this season, you got to think that Cole Kmet gets unlocked a little bit more this week. The more fun one, it's also kind of obvious, but a little bit more out there. But how about Caleb Williams? How about Caleb breaks out this week? How about we see QB1 in a primetime matchup against CJ Stroud live up to the hype, bounce back from his week 1 game, and that would be a true breakout performance that the whole country would be talking about as everyone goes to bed on Sunday night.
Well, let's give a shout out to the breakout baby of the week, Marco Resendez, $5 super chat. Shout out to the first baby born yesterday. He's named CJ, but he'll be rooting for CW with Dad on Sunday night. He's already got his Bears gear. Bear down. I don't know, Marco. Congratulations, but picking CJ this week. What are we doing here?
That's one where you got to refile the birth certificate, wait till Monday, and then make the name official. That's the question. But congratulations, Marco. That's awesome. Congrats to your family.
Could have named him Carman. Still chance. Still time.
Yeah. I mean that's the biggest thing, Marco. You could have gone Carm. You could have gone MC. You had a lot of options there. Little disappointed, but that's cool. Do you? And it's okay. No one's going to remember that you named him CJ the week of Bears Texans. That's all right.
Congrats to you and CJ, Marco. Happy for you. Breakout baby of the week. How about it? It's going to be a fun Sunday here. The weeks are moving quick now that we're in the season, Adam. Looking forward to the primetime, game day coverage we'll be having, pregame, postgame, Briggs and Brown show, everything in between. So enjoy the rest of the day at House. I'll keep us updated with everything. Please tell Rome I will donate my leg if I need to, although both my legs are ruined. So maybe we need somebody else to donate the legs. So
I don't think he wants your legs.
He doesn't want my legs. So
we all silly like the mayor.